Superintendent Oswald come forward to speak on TL5.
Thank you. TL5 is our textbook adoption process. If you recall, about a year and a half ago, we had to change process with a change in statute to allow for a public hearing on our adoption materials. This is serving as that process. We did not have any speakers to sign up. In 30 days, we will come back to the board to allow for a formal vote on the adoption of our math adoption K-12 for next school year. So these materials have also been put into the board office for your perusal as well. So if you have any questions yourselves, otherwise we will see you in 30 days with additional information.
Any questions from anybody? Dr. Robinson?
So what is the current state of any flexibility that we have with instructional material dollars?
Can you clarify?
So there was one window of opportunity some years ago where those dollars could be used to pay teachers, like to write curriculum, but as I understand, 50% of those dollars have to be used on materials that are on the state's adoption list, and the other 50% has to be used on instructional materials, but not necessarily on that list. So I'm just checking, is that correct? No windows of flexibility.
And I see Mr. Harris has joined us here. I'll let him address that specific question.
I think we probably need to get back to her on that question.
Okay, so we'll follow up in writing on that particular question.
There are certain criteria that you have, and I believe this is the cycle for mathematics at this time. And I know that categorical dollars don't have to be spent solely on that. But in terms of your specific question, we'll get back to you.
You want to add, Ms. Fenner, maybe?
For the instructional materials adoption, what we have to do is purchase all core instructional materials for textbooks. And at least 50% of any core materials that we purchase have to come off of that state materials adoptions list. And then we could purchase for the other 50%, if we select a core materials adoption that's not on that state list, that's fine, as long as at least 50% is on there. However, before the monies can be used for any other materials purchase, we have to satisfy all the core materials adoption. Well, as prices have gone up, and unfortunately state categorical spending has not gone up, at this point it becomes difficult just to make sure that we meet all of the core instructional materials needs with the monies allocated to us from the state. So additional monies are just not left over at this time to do other pieces.
So I think last time the math adoption came around, I said the same thing. Math hasn't changed. Why are we buying new books? Can we do something else with that money? I think the answer is no.
Well, the standards have changed since the last math adoption. So
they have?
Yeah. So there have been some significant changes to the math standards, which the last couple of years, we have been supplementing resources and materials to teachers.
Okay.
And I can also answer some of the standards they have to look at is that they comply with the current standards. That's one of the requirements in the statute.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Maybe you answered this while I was talking to the superintendent. Have we looked at getting these things in electronic format? So, I mean, all the schools, was that answered? Was that asked and answered? So,
but we can address
instead of buying all these books I mean, my grandson carries a backpack around that must weigh 60 pounds with all the books in it. I mean, can't we figure out a way? I mean, every kid now has, all the schools have all the equipment. So why aren't we putting this stuff on digital media?
We do have electronic. Ms. Fenner, you want to?
So all of the books actually come with electronic versions, and more for our textbooks, they are going to, many of the materials being offered electronically, with the student-facing materials that they actually hold being more workbook format. We did that with our instructional materials adoption for science, which started this year. So what the students have is more of a workbook format, so it's not as heavy for them to hold, but they still have the full breadth of resources available to them using technology. And we see that for many, not all, but for many of our math materials as well into a workbook form. And in order to even make it easier for students carrying it, you'll see for the elementary and in some of the middle school courses, the workbook comes in 2 pieces. So for the first part, they have the first half of the workbook, and then they swap to the second part of the workbook for the second. So it's not even such a big workbook for them to carry around. So we're trying to keep all of those considerations in format when we do that, and the publishers don't even charge more for using 2 workbooks. So we are thinking of all of those pieces as we go through this process.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Andrews?
Thank you. So you said that the material will be in the board office. So will somebody from your office be available to kind of walk us through and chat with us? All we have to do is just call your office and you'll send somebody up?
Absolutely. If we
Thank
want
you.
to set up meetings, we will have staff there.
Okay, great.
Any other comments? Dr. Fenoy?
Mr. Chair, if I could take a point of privilege. So in reference to the last speaker, I want to make it clear for the public that when a person that is under our employment is accused, and let me be clear, the board can't respond to this, but I can. When a person is accused, we immediately begin investigations in our district. We do not let any accusations go uninvestigated. And between our police department and our HR department and all of the people that we employ that do these investigations, if a person is convicted and found guilty of a crime, we will not have them with our children. And so let me be really clear that we do not ignore these things. And if a person has been convicted and found guilty of these crimes, that we do not allow them to be with our children. And so let me be really clear that we have thoroughly investigated some of the accusations brought forward by speakers today. And we are very comfortable that the investigations were done completely.
Thank you. Any further comments? So we need a motion to adjourn, please, somebody?
So moved.
All of you? Second? We have another meeting, so don't go anywhere. We're not done. We're not done. All in favor? All opposed? This meeting's adjourned, and we'll call the next one to order.